What's going on, everybody? Today, continue with the 7-round mock draft series. We're taking a look at the New York Football Giants. We're going to be looking at the free agency, giving some grades for that. Quickly taking a trip down memory lane and looking back at the 2016 draft to get an idea what kind of players like to look for. And then we're going to throw our hat into the mix to try to do a full 7-round mock draft. And though, I hate the Giants. I hate the Giants as much as everyone else. I really do think my first four picks for the Giants, maybe I was being a little too generous. I really think that, most Giant fans will be pretty happy with my draft. And, I think two of the picks could be deemed, wishful thinking that they might still be available. But just how the mock draft worked out, how my big board did as I was doing all 32 teams, they were available. And I felt I'd do a little bit of a solid to, the Giant fan base and try to give them a nice 7-round mock. So the Giants last year were 11-5, had the 25th overall offense and the 10th overall defense. Their MVP for me last season was Landon Collins, who was probably, I thought, the second best defender. I thought really it went Khalil Mack at 1, Landon Collins 2, and then Von Miller at 3. And then you had, Vic Beasley and guys like that rounding out the list. But Landon Collins was a monster, really coming on from what was somewhat disappointing rookie season, I think most people could agree upon. But he's emerged as one of the top safeties in the NFL. So he gets himself the MVP. The needs for me before free agency start was offensive tackle, linebacker, running back, and quarterback. In free agency, the exclusive free agent rights will tie. I'd have a butchered that, but they got him basically on $600K for 1 year. I give that a C. I think Will Tye obviously has some issues with drops. He's not spectacular, but he's a solid tight end. He can, be a guy that can get 60, 70 yards consistently if the ball comes towards him. The release for Rashad Jennings was free $2.5 million deal, or $2.5 million against the cap. That's B+. I mean, Jennings wasn't getting the job done. Released Victor Cruz, which freed up $7.5 million. Give him that an A+. Sterling Shepard pretty much made Victor Cruz obsolete, and that was a lot of good cap money there. They tagged Jason Pierre-Paul and were able to re-sign him to a 4-year, $62 million deal. Giving that a B-. I still think you can see that there's a difference in his game after he blew his hand off because he's a goddamn genius. But he still, is a very talented playmaker, and I still think not enough people give it his credit against the run. I think he is a solid tackler, but you can still see he struggles wrapping up from time to time because he can't get a full grasp on a player. But bringing back Jason Pierre-Paul was definitely a big need for the Giants. They signed Brandon Marshall on a 2-year, $12 million deal. I'll give that a B. Obviously, Brandon Marshall's up there in age. He's like, he's 33. Doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank, but still will get some meaningful snaps with the Giants next year. I think he'll be a big part of their offense. Have him play on the other side of Odell Beckham Jr. with Sterling Shepard in the slot. That's not bad. That's you need to give as many weapons as you can for Eli Manning. They signed Rhett Ellison on a 4-year, $18 million deal. Giving that a D, that's a terrible deal for a guy that's been nothing more than a role player, special teamer for the Minnesota Vikings. And for a team that needs tight end help, that certainly does not answer anything. Any questions? That was just a lot of, I don't know, that was a terrible deal. They brought in DJ Fluker on a 1-year prove-yourself deal, very similar to what the Philadelphia Eagles did with Chance Warmack, so we got to wait and see. And they re-signed John Jerry to a 3-year, $10 million deal. I'll give that a C. I think he's probably, solid starter, but he's nothing great. They definitely could still look at upgrading that position, but he's more of a Band-Aid fix for the next couple seasons, and hopefully they can draft someone there. So now looking at the 2016 draft and how they did, it was actually, in retrospect, a pretty good draft from the Giants, all things considered. First round pick 10, they got Eli Apple, the corner from Ohio State. I think he was a little bit disappointing. I thought that was a complete reach for them to get him. But, he ended up making the NFL.com all-rookie team, which probably doesn't really mean a whole lot. 51 tackles, 7 pass deflections, and a pick. Obviously, I think he wasn't terrible, I guess. It wasn't definitely a bad pick. I thought it still was a reach, especially because he went ahead of Vernon Hargreaves. And Vernon Hargreaves, I think, had a little bit better rookie season. But Eli Apple wasn't terrible, wasn't bad. People, if you're a Giant fan, hoping that he can take another step next season. In the second round, they got Sterling Shepard, the wide receiver from Oklahoma, and he was very good, man. But like I said, he made Victor Cruz expendable. 65 receptions, almost 700 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That's a big year from him. Always knew he was going to be good. That was a good pick from the Giants from day one. They also got Darian Thompson, the safety from Boise State, depth special teamer. 4th round, B.J. Goodson, linebacker from Clemson, obviously special teamer. 5th round, they got Paul Perkins, the running back from UCLA, who unless they draft someone, is running back 1, so gets good value. The 4th, 5th round, be it Devontae Booker, Jordan Howard, and now Paul Perkins. I mean, that was a money round last year for running backs. And finishing out the draft in the 6th round, they got Jarrell Adams, the tight end from South Carolina, who I think there's some upside with him. 16 receptions last year, had like 100 yards and a touchdown, 6'5", 215 pounds. Like I said, there's still some uncertainty at the tight end position. Don't think they really addressed it with Rhett Ellison and Will Tye, and they may try to look at improving it this year. We'll see what happens when we do our full 7-round mock draft. But last year, I think, all in all, not a bad draft from the New York Giants. Very solid draft for them. So now, let's jump into my full 7-round mock draft. All right, so in the first round, pick 23, I have the Giants taking Cam Robinson, offensive tackle from Alabama, 6'6", 325 pounds, running 5'1", 540. Did not participate in a bench press. His NFL comparison is the player that he absolutely needs to bump out of the depth chart. Is Eric Flowers on NFL.com. But I think a much higher ceiling for Cam Robinson. Still a bit of a project. You may have to look at him playing right guard, competing with John Jerry. But ideally, the pick is getting him to play a tackle spot. I think Bobby Hart, nothing special. Eric Flowers is terrible. So I think with a guy like Cam Robinson, you're hoping that he can play and start at tackle right here. He's probably as polarizing a figure, if you'd say, in this year's draft class, especially at the tackle spot, because guys like Garrett Ballas and Ryan Ramczyk might be safer bets right now, but you still have to consider Cam Robinson might have the highest ceiling out of any potential tackle, and he's still versatile. Some NFL scouts, I think Mike Mayock, said that he could see Cam Robinson playing guard, so he's very versatile on the offensive line, but the fact that he was able to play left tackle against some of the best edge rushers and best defenders that you're going to see in the SEC, I think he can make that transition to play left tackle, and at least add some competition. Maybe we'll bring the best out of Eric Flowers, maybe light a fire on his ass not to be a bust, and it kind of is almost admitting defeat for the Giants because you're giving up on your first round pick from 2015, but he's not getting it done. He's one of the worst starting left tackles in the league. I think, the DJ Fluker's on a one-year deal, but I think you bring in Cam Robinson, instantly you can look at and see him at right tackle, right guard, left tackle. So he's 3 spots that he can come in and compete and either push the current starters or have an opportunity to get that starting gig. So I think, protecting Eli Manning is priority number 1, especially after last season when they invested like 95% of their goddamn cap space in improving the defense. Now it's time to give the offense some love. Jumping to the second round, pick 55, I have them going with, I think he will go in the second round. I think the Giants, if he's really the, he was there when I did my draft. But I think if the Giants really want this prospect, they may have to look at trading up because I think he'll be taken in the top half of the first round. But at pick 55, I'm going with Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback from Texas Tech, 6'2", 225 pounds, ran a 4.80 40, had a good 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. Pro comparison to him is Jay Cutler. Kinda, but I do think more so, I believe Eli Manning's done. I can say that as an Eagle fan that hates the Giants. Eli Manning, I just don't see him having another serious playoff push. He could, and I still think, even though he didn't and kind of crashed and burned last season, you still go to the playoffs. As long as you can get the Giants into the playoffs, you never know if Eli Manning could sprinkle some magic and just perform way better than he has. But I think it's that time that, the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, you already heard it with Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. They're starting to slow down. I know Eli Manning, pretty much like the healthiest quarterback I've ever seen. I don't know if he's ever missed a game to injury. But that being said, not more so have that backup ready in case Eli Manning gets hurt, but more so have the guy that's going to be able to take over him when, I think Eli Manning got like 3 years left max. 3 years. So give Patty Mahomes, the guy that certainly shouldn't be thrown to the wolves in start year 1. I think you probably should look at redshirting him. Have him at least sit behind him for Eli Manning for 1 year. Then year 2, that's when Eli Manning, I think, will start to take another drop off in his game. And then you look maybe year 3, he will be able to take over that starting gig. Because I think right now, Patty Mahomes is one of the best project quarterbacks, if you will. I think him, Kaiser, and Davis Webb would be the 3 guys that if I'm looking for a project quarterback that I can get not in the first round, I think guys like Watson and Trubisky could go in the first round. A team like Giants is a perfect situation for them. Maybe Giant fans might say the second round is a little too high. Maybe start looking at the third, fourth round. But, it is pretty much a consensus pick in the Giants. You need to start planning for life beyond Eli Manning. And I don't think signing Geno Smith is quite going to do that. So getting Patty Mahomes in the second round, I think, would be beneficial to them. Jumping to the third round, pick 87. This guy, I had him slipping a little bit because no one really knows what he's going to play. And I think he's kind of fallen in the line of a Devin Funchess. And that is Gerald Everett, the tight end from South Alabama, 6'3", 240 pounds, 4'6", 240, 22 reps on the bench press. Tested very well in broad, vert, 3-cone drill, and 20-yard shuttle. NFL pro comparison is Quincy Enunwa, the wide receiver of the New York Jets. But it is tough. I've seen actually a couple people compare him to Brandon Marshall as well. But if they does plan to stay at the tight end spot, I think that is what the Giants are looking for. They more so want a receiving tight end than a guy that's going to be able to, be more, blocking. And I think Gerald Everett is as receiving tight end as they come. That's why I think he's going to fall to the third round, because there are more complete tight ends. And I think that's what I think a lot of people, because he's not a lot of people want in the NFL, because I don't think he's as explosive or as good as a receiver as Evan Ingram. And any team that really just wants that pure receiving tight end is going to go with an Evan Ingram. So then, after that, you get the more complete guys. Adam Shaheens, O.J. Howard's definitely going to be gone. David Njoku, George Kittle from Iowa. I mean, those guys are going to be gone. So I think Gerald Everett is going to take a little bit of a slip and fall into the third round, where he definitely goes to the Giants and a team that he'd probably start. He might be able to start on the Giants right away. I think you could see him being an upgrade over Rhett Ellison, Will Tye, or Jarrell Adams. And that's excellent value. One of the best value picks in this year's draft class. Going to the fourth round, pick 140. I've been going with Kareem Hunt, the running back from Toledo, 5'10", 215 pounds, running 4.62 40, 18 reps on the bench press, and a 36.5-inch vertical, showing off some explosiveness. NFL comparison for him is Olandis Gary, who I have no idea who that is, but you watch Kareem Hunt, best thing you can see is his legs never stop running. He's a guy that, you know, is more of a runner than a receiver, but definitely could come in right away and add some immediate competition to Paul Perkins for the starting gig. All right, now, I mean, you got Orleans Darkwa, who's looked, you know, sometimes he looks all right, sometimes he looks terrible. Sean Drone came in from the 49ers. He's, you know, pretty much a fullback, I would consider it. And you got Shane Vereen, who's a receiving back. But I think Paul Perkins should not be handed the starting gig, and you need to bring in someone with some competition that can push for that starting gig. And I think that will be a running back like Kareem Hunt, who did have somewhat of a disappointing 40-yard dash. I mean, a 4.62, when he's a little bit of a smaller back, pretty much the same kind of size as an Alvin Kamara, is a little bit disappointing, but he's a guy, man, very underrated, was very solid in college with Toledo. Obviously, the level of competition hasn't been super strong, as strong as the guys that are coming from, you know, the SEC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, but I think he's you know, really, really well-rounded. More so, you know, I definitely could see him. He actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Paul Perkins, to be completely honest with you. He's a guy that can certainly catch the ball, certainly could get, you know, 30, 40 receptions a year, but I really think he has good vision, solid elusiveness, and he has just the work ethic. He never stops running, will never give up on a play, constantly churning. Even if there's a big pile, you best believe he's still moving his legs, pumping, trying to break and extend the play, and I think he's going to have a very nice career in the NFL. It's a solid fourth-round pick. Jumping to the fifth round, pick 167. I've been going with Connor Harris, the inside linebacker from Lindenwood, 5'11", 242 pounds, ready 4.73 40, 18 reps on the bench press, had a very impressive 60-yard shuttle of 11 seconds. NFL comparison is Chris Borland, who was an absolute tackle machine for the San Francisco 49ers before he abruptly retired. But I mean, this guy here, big-time hitter, obviously from a small school, but he currently has the NCAA record for 633 career tackles. Tackle machine, very smart, very instinctive. Good athlete in pads. Obviously didn't test as well as some people would have expected, but I do believe he's a guy, relentless work ethic, and exactly what you need to bring to that Giants linebacking core. Because B.J. Goodson, Curtis Grant, Jonathan Casillas, J.T. Thomas. I mean, you know, I like Mark Herzlich, who was pretty productive at Boston College. I think he had some. Did he have like cancer or something like that? He's a cancer survivor, and I always thought that he was fairly solid. But I think adding a tackle machine is exactly what you can look to improve that Giants defense right now. Because, I mean, there is some uncertainty. There's no clear-cut starter between J.T. Thomas, Jonathan Casillas, Keenan Robinson, the former Washington Redskin. I think you might add another name to that. And a guy like Connor Harris is very underrated and could bring great production as a starter and at least able to contribute on special teams right away as a rookie. Jumping to the sixth round, pick 207. Either going with Sam Tevi, Tevi, that's how you pronounce it. Nice. The offensive tackle from Utah, 6'5", 310 pounds, ran a 4.27 4D, 15 reps on the bench press. Nice, long, rangy guy with 34-inch arms. Swing tackle, he'll be a right tackle, and bring him in to compete with Bobby Hart and DJ Fluker. I still think for the Giants, you definitely want to take at least 2 offensive linemen in this year's draft class to add some depth, because really, I think the interior is not so bad. Justin Pugh, I've heard rumors that they want to be trying to maybe swing him at tackle or a position change for Justin Pugh, but I think Richburg's not too bad. He's definitely a solid playmaker. Pugh's not bad. John Jerry's serviceable, but I mean, I think the 2 tackle spots, one of those should be addressed with Cam Robinson, but I think getting some project player that can kind of, you know, throw on maybe candidate for practice squad, as Tevi certainly needs to get a little bit more consistency to his game, but he can come in and add some depth and solidify that offensive line a little bit more for the Giants. And then finish up here in the 7th round, pick 241. Either going with Trayvon Hester, the defensive tackle from Toledo, 6'2", 300 pounds, big-time powerful 3 technique that could come in right away and add some depth behind Damon Harris, behind Mr. Snacks. Because right now the defensive tackles, after they did lose Jonathan Hankins, and I don't think they're going to be able to bring him back. He's still a free agent. They got Robert Thomas, Jay Bromley, and Jordan Williams as their defensive tackle depth. So I think you should try to at least bring some competition for the preseason and for camp to keep those guys fresh on their toes and try to see and let the cream rise to the top of the defensive tackle spot. And I think a guy like Trayvon Hester can do that. I mean, he's fairly productive, 6.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. He lost some weight, trying to come in and be a little bit more agile, but he's the kind of guy, project-type player. See what Steve Spagnuolo can do. See what he can get out of him. Probably a candidate for special teams, maybe. More so practice squad. But again, just improve the depth there and see what happens. So there you go, guys. That is my full 7-round mock draft for the New York Giants. As always, leave a comment in the comment section below if you agree or disagree. If that's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe channel. Even though we're a Philadelphia Eagles channel, you can subscribe. There's other content for other teams. But yeah, 100 likes on this video, guys, and tomorrow's video will be a full 7-round mock draft for the Houston Texans. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.